Hello, this is Sheila with Stampin' Wishes and welcome to my studio. Today we're going to do a fun card with the jar of flowers. I just absolutely love this new set. There's so many opportunities and designs I can see with this particular set. So I'll show you one. We're not going to do this one today only because of the drying time, but I'm going to bring it up and I'm hoping you can see the shimmering here and in the center of each of the sun. What I did with this, if you use our liquid fine tip pen, you can put this on, it dries clear, and use it like we used to use the glossy accents. It won't be quite as thick as the glossy accents, but it will give you some of that effect. So if you have drying time and you're looking at about an hour of drying time with that. Now I was out of it. I did use my glossy effects and I always leave those overnight because it can have take longer, especially as thick as I sometimes put it on. But this was one of the first cards I did with it. And I also used, and we're going to use it today too, one of our new packs of paper. This is in Good Taste Designer Series paper. Absolutely in love with it. All the beautiful wood grains that you can go masculine or you can go feminine. And today we're going to be using the back side of one of the grains, which I just absolutely love the textures that this particular paper shows in it. All right, so let's put this aside and we'll talk about measurements and what we'll be doing today. The stamp sets that we're going to be using is the jar of flowers. We're also using Itty Bitty Birthdays to finish this card off with. Now, something you want to keep in mind, this particular bundle does come with a punch, which is the jar. I'm really looking forward to doing that. And then we also have the Mason jar shaker domes, which I can imagine lots and lots of different ideas using that. So stay tuned for cards in that direction. And if you'll watch at the end of my video, I'm going to show you a card that I'll be doing here shortly, but they're fun interactive cards. Most of it is using Stampin' Up! Stamps, but the dies are from another one, so I will warn you about that. I don't normally do it, but I just fell in love with those dies. All right, so let's go ahead and get started on today's card. I wanted to show you a couple of things, one being color combinations. So depending on how everything looks, I want to show you using basic gray, and I'm using this, and then some of the DSP, that's Roca Rose. Okay, so you can kind of see how pretty that color combination is. Or if I wanted to flip-flop around, then I could use a white background. I could use some Roca Rose instead of the basic gray, and then you get a totally different look if you can see the difference there. So depending on how our flowers color out and what it looks like, that will determine which one I like going with at the end, okay? So for measurements though, I'm using 3 by 4 inch Whisper White. Then I have a 3 1/8 by 4 1/8 of the Roca Rose. Of the DSP, I have a 4 by 5 it's 3 3/4 by 5, and then I have 4 by 5 1/4, and then our standard 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 and scored at 4 1/4. Okay, so let's put that aside. One of the first things we want to do is, because we are going to be doing some masking, I use this, I get them at Office Depot, but they're a post-it note, but the entire post-it note is sticky. It's not just a piece of it up here like some of them are made. So I like to get the ones that are all over. So let's go ahead and ink up. The one we're going to be using today has the roses in it. So ink it up real well. Let's bring this over here. And the part that I'm going to have probably hang right at the jar ridge is probably right about there. So let's go ahead and stamp down and press well so we get a good imprint. So we know where we're going to be putting stuff. Let me clean that stamp off. All right, so we'll set that aside. I'll real quickly just trim up, and I do, once I make one of these, because I did one for the sunflower, but once I make them, I do leave them in the box with the stamp set because they can be used over and over again. And because we're really only wanting to mask what might be right at the ridge of the jar, we want to be sure and just take the time to cut out the bottom portion of this right on the line, so that we get a nice print when we go to mask this off. I hope by now that you've received your catalogs. If there's someone new out there and you don't have a demonstrator and you would like a catalog, I'd love to send it to you. Just leave me, you can either email me at stampingwishes@gmail.com or leave me a comment on my blog. There's a contact button on there that you can also contact me on. I'll be glad to send that right over to you. All right, so I think we're just about where we need to be here, so let's go ahead and remove that. Now, some of the coloring I will be doing, maybe one of the flowers, showing you the coloring and stuff using our blends, but I'll speed it up after that because I know some of y'all are familiar with it where some aren't, so I want to be sure that I cover everybody. One of the ribbons that we're using today I wanted to bring out, I just love it. It came in a bundle. It was that ribbon plus this gold ribbon, and it was part of this suite. Let me bring my book over here real quick. It was part of the suite here, Forever Greenery, and you'll see those two ribbons in it, and both of them are just beautiful. So if you're considering a suite, this is absolutely one to go with. It is gorgeous. Okay, so let's set that aside. We don't need that right now. All right, so next we're going to go ahead and get everything stamped so that we can let it dry a little bit while we're blending. I don't like to stamp and then immediately start blending because it does have a tendency, if the ink's not completely or well dry with it, it will want to start bleeding a little bit or smearing, so we don't want that to happen. And I just recently re-inked. All right, now normally I would go on with one of my foam backs when I stamp with the photopolymer, but I'm finding with this set that actually it's come out crisper when I didn't use it. But oftentimes I do use it to get a really good image on it. But this, for some reason, these are just doing really well like they are. I don't know if they've changed anything with their photopolymers, but I have noticed I didn't have to use a foam backing there. All right, so we've got our roses here. So this is where we want to put our masking over it. And I want to come real well into this. Now for my jar, some people like to use a black, and that's not a problem. I prefer using my basic gray. To me, it gives it more of a kind of a glass effect, which is what we're wanting to get in this particular stamp set, is the effects of a glass jar. And I just felt like the basic gray was a good fit. So I'm going to come in here about like that because I want a little bit of the top of the jar showing, and I'm going to be using stems, so I want some of them to show as well. So keep in mind to try and balance, and hopefully I've got that into the screen here, but keep in mind, try and balance, and look how nice and pretty that came out within your piece, because you've got to have room for your flowers. I like to put a little shadow always on my, to give it some base, that it's not like it's floating in the air, so keep that in mind as well. And it looks like I may have left my green for my stems. I'll just use the black. Sometimes I like to use the green, and that way it has that effect. But since I don't have it here, we'll go ahead and use the black, and then we'll color them in. So while I've still got my masking on, I want to come in here. These are the stems of the flower jar, and I want it to look as though they're kind of behind the flowers a little bit. So I came up in that direction. Okay, and so now when we go to take off that masking, you'll see how it all came together very, very pretty. See? Beautiful. Looks just like a bunch of roses and different flowers sitting in the water there in the jar. So we're going to go ahead and put this over with my stamp so I don't lose it, and then go ahead and start coloring. I'm going to, like I said, well, I'll speed some of this up, but my blends are right in front of me, and I'm just going to kind of go on a whim of the colors I want to use. These, I believe, are the Roca Rose. So I'm going to start with my light Roca Rose, and I want to color the entire rose right now with this color. Now, I always start with my light and work in my dark colors. Some people prefer to go just the opposite direction. They like to work with their shadowing and then bring in the lights. I find I have better luck with my blending and shading by doing this. So that's what we're going to do. We've got it just about all colored. Okay, so now I've got an overhead fan on, so it's drying fairly quickly. You do like to kind of let some of the alcohol between your colors dry, and this will help build your colors a little better. So we're going to go with areas that I want to have dark. Now this is, you know, again, this is based on who the artist is and the areas that they think when they're looking at this rose unfold in petals, where would some of the dark be, some of the light would be, and you just want to kind of blend with that and go with what feels well to you, and you can, you know, change some up. Remember, you can always go lighter, but you can't go darker, so you might want to play around with some of the colors that you get prior to doing too much of your dark color on. So now I'm going back over that darker ink, and that's just to kind of bring it in. I'm not bringing my light Roca all the way to the tips because I want that to be the lightest area, and as you know, these will get a little bit lighter when they do dry, but I do want to keep a lighter shade on the very tips of the petals. Okay, this is looking really good. Isn't that pretty? And it's so easy, you know, it just, a lot of people are a little bit afraid of using blends and stuff, but I just find I love, it's therapeutical. It's, you can just design and blend different colors together. I've used some that are very similar to each other and have gone into 3 and 4 shades of color, which is also always interesting too. So I'm just going in and darkening a little bit more of the areas that I had the darker in, where I want it to really kind of show up a little bit more. There we go. And then once again, to make sure that my colors don't have a beginning and end to it, I just want it to kind of blend into the shades. I'm coming back over some of the dark areas and pulling that color out with the lighter. Okay, so I like the effects of that one. Now I'm going to go ahead and make one more of these flowers, which to me this does not look like a rose. It looks like another kind of flower. What kind? I'm not sure, so I'm going to use my imagination, and I think this would be pretty in a sort of shades of yellow. So I'm going to go ahead and put my Roca Rose away for right now and bring me in some Daffodil Light, the dark, All right, so we've got it colored, and I kind of like the different colors that I put together here, and I'll list them all. I used light and dark Mossy Meadow on the leaves. I used some Posy along with the light Highland Heather. I used the dark crumb cake and a little bit of the bronze on the eucalyptus, and then the yellows, I think I went over those with you. Those were the Daffodil Delight along with the light mango melody. So, all right, so the next step we have is to make the look of water that's going to be down here on the jar. Now these are those two-sided, so you've got a way to make a small jar of flowers if you wanted to here, or in this case I want to use it for my blue. And because the balmy blue, mine is still fairly mushy or wet, I should say, I don't like the look to be a complete one stamp, because if you can see in there how dark that is. So I'm going to stamp off on the side here, and I think I'm going to stamp off one more time just so I can get I'm going to have to bring this over where I can see it, but I want to be able to line this up and just barely get that light blue water on it. And there we go. See how pretty that is? Isn't that gorgeous? And so as you can see, they're fast, they're easy, they're fun to use, and that's the main thing about making cards, is something you'll enjoy. But I don't want to stop here. I want to be able to use some of my Wink of Stella just to kind of bring out some shimmer in those flowers. Nothing better than that beautiful shimmery look. So let's just kind of brush over, bring out some of the coloring from there, and it will make it even more gorgeous than it is. So let's go ahead and do this real quick. Now this time, if you wanted to, you could go over this area here with your fine tip glue pen, or in this case, I'm just going, because I'm not going to be using anything, I'm just bringing in some of my Wink of Stella, again, just to give a glistening of the flowers and the water, and you get the effects of it. I'm going to bring it up a little bit so hopefully you can see the different shades of it. I'm hoping you can see it as well as I do here. All right, so I said we'd decide on what we want to do with the card. So I'm going to put this here with that background and the white. So this is one look that we have. Okay, so now let's come over here along with the, move this out of the way, along with the grays, and then bring our, so you get a totally different look. You can either get kind of the dark shading, and I love both of them, I really do, because I love pinks and grays together, any way you look at it. So I don't know what you think, but this kind of brings out a little bit more of the texture, but I'm feeling the white right now, so I think we're going to go that direction with it. So let me go ahead and pull this out, but just keep in mind that's another option that you have with using the pinks and over the grays and stuff. Okay, so we're going to go here and line this up, and we'll what we need to do is I'm going to take a pair of scissors, and I'm going to get my, let me turn around here, I should have one of my mats here to protect myself and my work area, but I'm going to come in here and put a little slit here. Now you can also do this with a crafting knife. I've also got those too, but my scissors were handy, and I think I can get what I want out of this way. So I'll just kind of lift those to the back so it has room for my ribbon, because I am going to fold the ribbon in half so I can hopefully get it in there. So if you hear any excess noise, my husband's getting his dinner ready, so excuse the outside noise there. Okay. And I'm going to bring my scissors here, because a lot of times you can kind of poke them through to get things going. So there we go on that. And I'm going to turn my fan down. It's starting to dry my eyes out a little bit. We've got super hot temperatures here in Texas, and I don't like to be warm at all. In fact, if I had my ruthers, I'd be in cold, cooler, I'll put it that way, temperatures most of the time. All right, so now I want to bring this over, and we're going to either tie a bow or we'll tie a knot. But for right now, I want to leave it like this because I want to incorporate my tag into what I'm doing here so that it looks like it's joined together with it. But didn't that come out cute, like being able to put it through, and this will all be covered in the back. All right, so now this is one of our new punches. It allows you, I think it's, if I remember correctly, it's a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and 1 inch, somewhere along those lines. One of the other demonstrators I saw, what I thought was real smart, is instead of looking in the book, she wrote her inches down here so she could recall what her inch of paper, measurements of her paper was to be. So that's a really good idea. What I'm going to do is come in, I kind of like this little one up there, not that it's going to show that much, but again, I'm going to go ahead and use that. And you want to push it as far back as you can go. Use the heel of your hand and come down and smush it. I'm going to be blending, I think, one of these in with the white, so we'll see how that goes. All right, so for the greeting, I thought we'd use the Itsy Bitsy Birthday, and they have several of the items. And I think we'll use Time to Celebrate. I like that one. So if you're not sure what this card's going to be, whether it'll be an anniversary or a birthday or just what kind of greeting your inside's going to be, this It's Time to Celebrate can be used for a lot of different items. And since I don't know what this card I want it to end up being, whoops, just dawned on me I wanted that to come to the right, or yeah, to the left, so I need to, whoops, a little crooked there. So let's go at one more stab of it and see if I can't get that straight this time. And if I don't get it straight, and hopefully my head's not in the middle of this, but if I don't get it straight, we'll go with what we got. That much better, so we'll go with that. All right, so I wanted to see, and it might be too much for this card, but just a little bit of that pink coming out of it. And I think we'll go ahead and let's flag this one by just going down the center of each one, and let's see how this looks. Okay. All right, so at this point, I'm going to have extra room for this to sit off when everything is layered. So I just am kind of looking at it to make sure that I don't go completely off of it. So now I'll go ahead and use a little bit of the adhesive back here. it says shop with me, and you'll want to click on there, and then you can go in and follow the directions on there to join my team. All right, didn't this come out gorgeous though? I just love it. All right, so let's bring in the other card that I had. And as promised, I told you real quick, I will show you a card that I'm going to be, hopefully I put them out here, there they are, that I'm going to be bringing in and playing with this month as well. Here's the, it's an interactive card. It opens up, see the little arrow that points down, and it opens up to say happy birthday. And then in the inside, I use, part of a punch, and that's the inside of it, but isn't that just precious? There's so many different things that you can do with this let me get it going again, because sometimes trying to use my right hand doesn't always work with the mechanisms. This one was my favorite, and this is using one of our stamps, since I can't off the top of my mind remember what it is, but it's one in our current catalog. But I just love the way this came out, and this is one of my Widely Grateful and Miles Apart But Still in My Heart thank you type card. So anyway, we're going to be doing something like this using our Stampin' Up stamps later on this month. All right, until next time, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you do, please give me a thumbs up. Leave any kind of comment. I would love to hear what you have to say. And until next, and if you haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and your bell to remind you whenever I have a new one coming out. Until next time, God bless and thank you.